Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show and welcome to the April 2019 previews episode. And of course, I am joined by George of the soon-to-come secret podcast project. Hey, George. How you doing?
Hi, Eric. Hello, everybody. I wish I had details to give you. I actually do have details to give you, but the reason I'm not sharing them is because me and my co-hosts have done some 11th hour changes. And while I'm confident that these changes are the final changes, you never know. So I'd hate to say, hey, tune into da-da-da-da-da on this particular date when our first episode drops, because I can't guarantee that we won't make an 11th and a half hour change. Because you know what it is, Eric? And any of your listeners out there who have their own podcasts might attest to this also. It's that first episode. It's having the confidence to say we chose the right name, which once you guys hear the name, you're going to go, okay, we waited this long for this name of this podcast. And then when you decide on the format and how you're going to do things, and then you realize by the third episode, you've evolved into something totally different than what you intended to be in the first place. Mm-hmm. I understand that that's going to happen, which is probably against everything Peter Rios told everybody in his latest The Daily Rios episode, which I have not listened to yet. And I'm not sure if I want to listen to it prior to the show coming out or after, because now I'm afraid to listen to that particular episode of The Daily Rios. Mm-hmm. But I will listen, Peter. I may just not listen until 2022. No, just kidding. Everybody should listen to that.
That was episode 450 of The Daily Rios for people who are following along at home.
I can't wait to listen to that. But anyway, I will say this. I can almost guarantee that you should be able to listen to the new podcast, of which I will be a part, by the end of April. And the reason for that is we have kind of set the deadline for ourselves because we will be part of Livestream for the Cure, which we discussed last week.
Yes, I was just going to ask if the new show is going to be out before the live stream.
Well, we kind of got ourselves into a bit of a pickle there because we do want the show to start before Livestream for the Cure, and Livestream for the Cure is not going to move their dates for us. Mm-hmm. So we have got to get our butts in gear and get our show out into the cyberspace land, even if only our three original listeners, Nigel, Sven, and Regis, are going to listen to the show. And may I talk about Livestream for the Cure real quick?
Please.
I'll make it fast this time around. I know I've seen some grumblings on Twitter. I don't know if they're necessarily about this show, but I know some people out there don't like when the hosts of a show don't get right into the meat of what they're going to talk about. I've read those tweets. I take them to heart, and I'm sorry I need this forum right now to just talk about Livestream for the Cure really quick, because me, my co-hosts Kristen Unger and Rodney Roberts are going to be on Livestream for the Cure on Friday, May 17th at 10:30 p.m. That will be the first evening of Livestream for the Cure. We'll be on pretty early on in the whole proceedings. And if you go to livestreamforthecure.com, you could get all the details of the podcast marathon over that weekend of May 17th. And they also have merchandise that you can purchase, whether the proceeds go toward the cause. And you can also donate to the cause. And I'd love it, once again, if your listeners and my old listeners can join in at the 10:30 half hour. Listen to us flub it up a little bit with the Epic Film guys who are hosting this event. They're the ones who started this whole thing. And donate to the cause, because as crazy as it is right now, with everybody disagreeing about everything from politics to the latest TV shows, I don't think I know anybody out there who's pro-cancer. So I think we can all agree that cancer is bad. That's right. And we should do everything we can to fight it. And unfortunately, since we're not scientists, the best we can do is donate to the cause so the scientists can figure things out for us.
That's right. Yeah. As you so eloquently put in your promo for this that I played on some previous episodes.
And I thank you for that. And I am definitely delinquent in a follow-up. I was going, everything they say in comedy and everything else comes in threes, the Trinity, so to speak, in our world with DC Comics. I was going to put out a almost like a second act
Mm.
promo, kind of saying, okay, the show's almost here. Here we go to get excitement from, I don't know who would be excited about it except me and my two co-hosts. But then the third promo was supposed to be, here's the show, catch it on whatever podcast apps you have. The first episode drops on such and such a date. This is what we're about. Come listen to us. Now it's just going to be, we're skipping the second act and going right to the third act when it comes to promos. And I'm not going to create that promo until everything is set in stone as far as the show is concerned. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have a new one in like a week or two.
Very good. Well, looking forward to that. And
well, thank you for playing the one I have, though.
Of course. Yeah. I'm always happy to promote friends of the show, friends of my own, and just promoting, fun stuff to listen to. So I'm fully anticipating this will be a lot of fun.
Thank you. And I hope so. I hope not to disappoint. And you're also promoting Live Stream for the Cure, exactly. Which again is a very important cause, a very important show. I'm hoping everybody will check it out and listen. Even if you don't get a chance to listen to us at 10:30 Friday night Eastern time, because I know a lot of people have better things to do on a Friday night, there are going to be plenty of podcasters out there guesting throughout the weekend. So even if you have an opportunity to go to Live Stream for the Cure, check it out. Livestreamforthecure.com, I should say. Check it out. Even throughout the weekend, if you have a moment to kill, or you're cleaning the house, or you're taking a walk or something like that, check it out. You might discover a new podcast that you may like while you're also helping in the fight against cancer if you choose to donate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me talk about it.
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
All right. Well, shall we just get into the April previews?
That's what we're here for. So yes, let's get right into it. Let's not make any of the listeners mad. Right into it. Previews. That's what we're here for.
So this time around, we're gonna, cause I like to change things up a bit every once in a while. So we're gonna talk through the DC catalog first, and then Marvel, and then the big book.
Oh, we're not going to talk about Boundless first? Sorry, I don't know why I make fun of that company. Hey, listen, if you love Boundless out there, more power to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So DC previews, George, right up front on the cover is Superman Year One from Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.
You excited? I can't tell. Even though I can even see you when you made that noise, I still can't tell whether you are or you aren't.
No, I'm not excited about this for a couple reasons, but it is an iconic team on the what is arguably the most iconic superhero.
True.
So, but here's my thing. I am interested in this, but I likely wait for a trade if I decide to get this. Because I kind of can't forgive Frank Miller for how he treated Superman in The Dark Knight Returns. But as I understand it, because I read an interview with Mr. Miller about this when they announced it, like, I don't know, a few months back. But supposedly this is his pro Superman tale. Okay. So I am intrigued by that. I have to say. But,
so is he going to beat the crap out of Batman?
That would be well-deserved justice, I think. Yes. But I'm also just not a big fan of John Romita Jr.'s art.
Is this in the same format as the third Dark Knight book that the Master Race that came out last year or the year before? Because I see it's $7.99, one of 3, 64 pages. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of like how the Master Race was?
I think so. Yeah. I again, with like the Master Race story, which I was going to mention later here too, but I got the trade for that.
Okay.
Because I just didn't want to. I don't know. I felt that it would be better to read as a whole. Unfortunately, it wasn't all that great anyway. So I'm glad.
So you've had a chance to read it.
Oh yeah. When it came out in trade paperback, I got it, but. I'm glad I didn't spend the issue by issue cost for that for that book. Right. But yeah, anyway.
Well, a lot of people will be interested in this.
Of course,
Superman Year One.
It's Frank Miller, right?
Yeah, right.
And I have to say that image of Superman as he's coming out of it looks like a spaceship, I guess. interesting that John Romita Jr. has chosen to do the S, the shield on his chest, so small, because we've, ever since the John Byrne era back in 86, 87?
Right, that would make sense. Yeah, that makes sense. After Crisis, right?
Yeah, after Crisis, the Man of Steel miniseries. That's when the S became like this huge thing on Superman's chest. And we've basically had that since then. But on this image, it's very small on his chest. I just think that was an interesting choice.
Well, maybe. Well, it is year one, so maybe it starts out small and then he gets it embroidered larger. But
as he becomes more emboldened, his S becomes bigger.
Yeah, but I'm also wondering if maybe subtly over the past 3 decades, the large John Byrne S has slowly been shrinking, but we haven't noticed.
I think you're right.
Could it be that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough picking on John Romita.
But it is a Black Label comic, so Black Label's still around. It looks like.
Whatever the heck that means. But before, this is on page 1 of the catalog, the Superman Year One is on page 2, but on page 1 is the next big thing to come out of DC, and this is weirdly titled Event Leviathan. This is the new DC event. It's called Leviathan. It is actually, the title is Event Leviathan.
Right.
So, huh? But it's Brian Michael Bendis written by, and he's collaborating with Alex Maleev. So that's, to me, that's like perfect thing to jump onto.
And he's been leading up to this pretty much ever since his run on Superman or Action or something like that.
I suppose so. I don't know too much about the event Leviathan. I mean, what I know about this actually is that Bendis on Twitter is saying that. He's saying that things have been building up to this. I don't see it based on the stuff I've been reading, but one, I'm not reading everything that Bendis is putting out at DC. And two, who knows? He does like to build these things up in the books that he's written. So I don't know, but this is a 6-issue miniseries.
You're going to get into this?
I have to really think about it. Normally, this would be something that I would just wait for a trade, but I really like Alex Maleev's art. It is an event book, so we'll see. We'll see about it. I do have to add though the inset on this page shows a hooded character.
Yes.
Whom I presume is the Leviathan that is being referenced here. But what it does is it reminds me of Bendis's run at Marvel Comics when he had the character of, I think the character's name is the Hood.
Oh yes, there is a character, the Hood.
Right. And so the Hood character in Marvel, in Daredevil and some other books that Bendis was doing, was kind of taking over the Marvel Universe underworld.
Okay.
And so I kind of see some similarities here.
Right.
But
let's face it. I mean, a lot of writers, for better or worse, if you were to break down a lot of their stories with different characters, when it comes right down to it, they're the same. Same beats, different characters, different characteristics for those characters. So you may not be way off on this.
Mm-hmm. I hope I am,
like
though.
the same. Yeah, but now that you said it, because hasn't Leviathan pretty much taken down every other organization in the DC universe?
Yeah, in the more recent issues of Action Comics, that's exactly what's been going on. They just started with that, so maybe that's what he's referring to in his tweets and stuff. Is that things are building up to that? We're just seeing the start of this, and we'll see this event book here in just a couple months.
Yeah,
barring any delays.
Well, I know they'll be excited about it at my local shop at Comic Logic. They'll love that. So, and so will the customers. That'll probably be a big hit over there.
Mm-hmm.
What about for the kids over on page 4 and 5?
Yes.
Pages 4 and 5, you have DC Ink and DC Zoom putting out some stuff. Did you have those marked off?
I was going to mention those too. I love that they're pretty much at the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah.
So that people, are more likely to notice them. I've said often that on the show here that Madison loves Harley Quinn, and so this looks like to be a perfect thing for her.
Right.
And I was like Art and Franco's superhero stories, so they're doing
definitely
Superman of Smallville. So
yeah,
that's fun.
So that's some good stuff for the kids. And actually, I bet you some adults will pick these books up too.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, I'm more interested in the Superman one than the Harley Quinn by Mariko Tamaki and Steve Pugh.
Me too.
But both of them seem very interesting. Now, are you buying Action Comics, or are you just buying Superman?
No, I'm getting both.
All right, so I see Event Leviathan is continuing into Action Comics number 1012 on page 6.
And that is, for my money, that's the better Superman book right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
I've heard other people say that too. Yeah. Why is that? Does it is it the supporting cast? Is it just the way the story's going? Because isn't everything interconnected anyway with Superman in action, or
not really?
Not really. It's almost like Detective and Batman, then, huh?
Kind of. Yeah. I'd say that's pretty accurate. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it feels like a more in-universe book because of the supporting cast, because it's part of the a large part of the Daily Planet has a large part to do with it. It's the Metropolis book. Whereas Superman is very, very insular with Superman, Lois, and their son, and what's going on with them.
Okay, I get it. What do you have next? Because I don't have anything until page 21.
Oh, go ahead, because mine is in 28.
All right. Well, I took a chance on Dial H for Hero.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I have to admit, it didn't intrigue me enough that I'm not sure I'm going to move forward in singles. I might go for a trade. I'm not even sure about that. I do like the concept. I liked what they did with it in the New 52, believe it or not. I enjoyed that run. It was weird enough for me. I loved it. But the reason I call this out is because if you're not buying Dial H for Hero, it looks like there's going to be a through line throughout the entire 6-issue miniseries, obviously because it's a miniseries, but this particular issue, Miguel and his partner Summer head to the old Justice League Detroit headquarters. Now, I know a lot of your listeners are fans of that era of the Justice League, so that could be kind of interesting. So that's Dial H for Hero number 4 on page 21.
Yeah, that's a book that I'm probably going to pick up in trade eventually.
I wasn't even going to do it at all, but it was the Nick Darrington cover. I guess it was the variant that made me get it, just because that piece of artwork was nice. And I read it and I said, I'll give it a chance. And I've spoken often here about how I myself need to do a bit of a culling and I need to cut back. I threatened to go cold turkey. The only person I was threatening was myself. Nobody else cares.
I care, George.
Oh, thank you very much. And I have not I've cut back and I haven't culled yet, but I've definitely cut back. But to buy something new, it's got to be really, really good to me. And that didn't hook me. So I won't be buying it anymore. Yeah, but I hope other people are enjoying it, because it's got a certain flavor to it and it's just not the flavor I want.
Yeah. It's a concept that if you're an older, I hate to use that word now, but an older DC reader, the Dial H concept is something that we kind of hold dear to our hearts, and I always want to see it succeed. And so this is the next iteration of that. I
only read it here and there back when I was a kid, and back then I didn't really care so much about the whys and wherefores. Certain things happened in a book, like it didn't all have to be explained to me so much. Back then, do you recall them writing into the story where the dial came from and where the powers were coming from? Was that important? It wasn't, right? It wasn't important until like the 90s, right?
I think that's Something like that. Yeah. I don't think it was explicitly called out when they were doing it at first. I think later writers and artists took that concept in the 80s and maybe the 90s, like you're saying, and then tried to
like the next generation
continuity for it or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Because wasn't there a Vertigo book about it where
I think you're right. Yeah.
And I think that's where, in my recollection, that might have been the first time where somebody tried to explain, where did this style come from? What is it doing? What's the science behind it? You know,
I think I actually read that series, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall myself. I mean, I know the New 52 one tried to give some reasoning for things, and it looks like even here in the first issue of this book, there's stuff going on to try and explain where it came from. Why does this kid have it now out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere? So it's almost to the point where maybe let's just have fun with it and have the kid dial and become a hero, and let's not worry so much about where it's coming from, what's going on. But anyway, that's, those changes take place as new generations come along to write an old concept.
Yeah. It's funny you're talking about this because, today, earlier, just a few hours ago, George, I was listening to the latest Word Balloon episode featuring the Bendis tapes.
Oh man, I have not listened to that show in a long time.
Yeah, but Bendis is and John Centris are talking about this particular comic.
Really? Oh, okay.
And Bendis was talking. So people should go listen to that. But real quick, Bendis was talking apparently with people at DC. Is there some way we can do, open it up for people to submit their ideas for heroes, just like they used to do in
the old days?
In the old days, right? And apparently that was quickly shot down.
Really?
Just because of legal reasons, right? IP and all that stuff.
Okay, I see. Right.
Yeah, they can't do things like that anymore.
Well, because what happens if one of them becomes ultra popular, like a Spider-Gwen, right? Like somebody,
exactly.
Right? Or a Gwenpool or something like that, right? If some random person on the street created that character, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Look at us. We're all so innocent, right? I don't think of these things. We're so innocent. Then the lawyers come in.
That's right. That's right. And and that's never good when you hear that kind of phrase. And then the lawyers came in.
Yeah.
My next thing on page 28 is Green Lantern I always forget the these days. The Green Lantern #8, and only because it says hard traveling heroes reunited. So they're getting Green Arrow teamed up with Green Lantern, which is always fun. But really, this is just a lead into a bit of a rant on my part because, again, today, George, I got an email from DCBS informing me that the Hard Traveling Heroes trade paperback that I think I mentioned a previews episode or two ago that I ordered. I actually did order it. That trade has since been canceled.
I'm surprised.
But the email, and it's canceled by DC. Because they're going through they're doing their own culling in terms of their trade offerings. And as a consolation prize, I guess, they reminded me that the hardcover is still available to order. Thanks a lot, DC.
Boy, and of all things to take off the list, I
know, right?
These are some of the most popular stories that are out there.
Yeah. So I might have to break down and get the hardcover anyway.
Yeah. See, that's how they get you.
I know, right? It's totally on purpose.
While the writing in those stories may be dated, the topics are still relevant today. And I would think that you would want to make that as accessible as possible to today's audiences for a new generation, because I think that they could relate. Again, maybe the jargon of the time might turn some people off, but I mean, the people reading it would be at least college age and older, I would think. And it would be nice to have a new generation read these classic stories and see, we've had these problems for years. What's going on today? Not a lot has changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately. Yeah. All right. What else do you have in this big book here, although still Marvel's bigger than the DC book.
Yeah. Well, see,
what else do you have in here?
This is kind of the order of which of the catalogs that I decided to do this time. It's from smallest to largest.
Smart.
Anyway,
that's why you're the host.
Anyway, I just wanted to make note on page 30, Hawkman number 13. So we're going into the second year of this great title, but Brian Hitch is out. He did the first 12 issues, and they've been wonderful. I think we're at issue 11 that's been released, and but artist Will Conrad is joining Robert Venditti to continue the adventures of Carter Hall. I'm just happy to have a Hawkman book, so I don't care. I don't care who the artist is.
Yep, you've been touting this one since day one. Yeah, good.
Keep doing that, but
well, I don't have anything till page 45.
Okay, that's where I was going next.
Okay, then go right ahead.
No, please, you do that.
Well, I just wanted to point out that on page 45 we have the last issue of The Silencer, number 18, and I think that means the only New Age of DC Heroes book that's left is the Terrifics. Am I right about that?
Yep, I was going to note the same thing.
Now, you took the time to have an episode for each first issue of this initiative, this New Age of DC Heroes. Looking back, now, do you think it was worth the hype? I mean, I know you didn't necessarily like every book that you read, but now we've got a year and a half of hindsight. What do you think?
Well, I will still always appreciate the fact that DC and, I will say any publisher who tries new things like this, I would always encourage them to do so, because you never know what's going to stick.
Sure.
Right. But I have to say, I don't know. I didn't, a lot of these titles did not grab me, and I dropped many of them quickly. And the only two that I stuck with for any length of time was the Terrifics and Sideways. But neither of those, I would say, they were great. They were great comics, but your mileage may vary.
Now, all of these supposedly stemmed out of the DC Dark Metal, right? Saga. So I also wonder, did the aftermath of that have the legs that DC wanted? I know they had the Batman Who Laughs miniseries, but I'm wondering if it really got fans' attention the way that they thought it might have. I don't know. What do you think?
I think they were taking a chance with Scott Snyder's event like thing. I hesitate to call Dark Knight or the Dark Metal thing an event itself, but I mean it really was. But it was just, I don't know. So they took a chance on it. And I don't think that it had the legs that they did hope for. Although Snyder's, we're still getting the after effects of that via the Justice League, some of the Justice League books. So I suppose there is some lasting impact so far, but. Yeah. 10 years from now, are we going to be talking about this? I don't think so.
Exactly.
I did want to point out, though, too, I just listened to the DC All-Stars podcast where they interviewed, Daryl Taylor interviewed Robert Venditti.
Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised you listened to that one.
Yeah, right?
Well, I mean, it's a good show anyway, but I mean, because Robert Venditti was on.
Exactly. So, they're mostly talking about Hawkman and stuff, but they were talking about how Damage, which is the one that Venditti was writing, Venditti mentioned that Damage was only supposed to be 12 issues, but they got more than that. I don't remember exactly how many issues it was. And so that made me think, considering that Silencer now is ending at issue number 18, and then the other books, before that. But I wondered, were all these books originally conceived as 12 issues?
Oh, could be.
And because some of the titles resonated more with the readers than others, like Silencer, they got, an extra 6 months out of this.
Could be. I mean, when you put as much effort as you did in those first issue covers, that it was a big deal that they were a vertical trifold.
Yeah, that was one of the more interesting things about them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you were going to take the time to do that, I would think that you would have wanted to make an investment of more than 12 issues. But, here we're playing armchair quarterback. I don't know.
Well, it could just be that maybe the powers that be at DC thought that certain of these books might last 12 issues and maybe others would last longer, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Then on the next page, 46, 47, there's a crossover between Supergirl and Superman. Mm-hmm. And I'm always a sucker for these, really short crossover stories. Mm-hmm. And since I'm getting Superman anyway, I was like, well, I might as well get Supergirl. I haven't gotten a Supergirl comic in a while, so.
Who's writing Supergirl these days?
Mark Andrenko.
Oh, right.
With art by Kevin McGuire and Sean Parsons.
On the next page, on page 48 in Teen Titans number 31, it looks like Lobo is going to be in the issue to collect his daughter Crush. And while I haven't been keeping up with this, I'll bet it's been leading up to this, at least this meeting between father and daughter.
Yeah, I'd be happy if she would crush Lobo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not much of a Lobo fan, but no. In Adam Glass's hands, I'll bet it'll be a cool read. Yeah,
that's for sure.
And then, of course, on the facing page on 49, The Terrifics, the other book we were talking about that has survived the New Age of DC Heroes, number 17 is coming out.
Yeah, now I'm really curious if next month, issue 18, if we find out that's the last one.
Well, Gene Luen Yang, I never know if I'm pronouncing his name properly, but he was the writer of the new Superman, right? Right. Was that the name of the title of the one that was in China? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they've switched writers. So it makes me think that maybe they're padding. I don't know. Or maybe he's got a storyline coming. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then on page 50, talk about final issues again. We've touched on this might be a new mini DC implosion going on right now. Although I think the Wildstorm was only slated to be 24 issues.
That is correct.
Yeah, so number 24 is coming out. So the final issue of Wildstorm on page 50 by Warren Ellis and John Davis Hunt.
George, I have been reading on the DC Universe app the issues 7 through 12 of the Wildstorm.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's because I got the first 6 issues in print, and then for various dumb reasons now I realize I dropped it. And like I said, I've been reading. I just finished issue 12 the other night. Boy, I'm kind of sad that I did that. But maybe I'll get rid of the issues and just get the inevitable collection. Because while I'm not really connecting with the story, because these are different versions of characters I'm sort of familiar with, but not really familiar with. And so this whole book is kind of like, I'm trying to figure out who's who, what are their connections, what's different about this compared to what I do know. It's kind of hurting my brain. But I will tell you, man, the John Davis Hunt art with the colorists that he's been working with, I think Steve Buccellato, for if not all of the issues, for the majority of the issues that I've been reading on the DC Universe app. Such beautiful art.
Wow.
I love these guys' art.
He did Clean Room.
Yes.
And that's where I was first introduced to him.
Me too, yeah.
I love his artwork. And hey, we're talking about Warren Ellis here. And it's not like Warren Ellis is new to the Wildstorm universe anyway.
That's true.
So could be worth people's time to check it out if they haven't, to, like you said, check out the Inevitable collection. And there are a lot of readers out there who were fans of Wildstorm back in the 90s. So they might want to come and revisit this if they haven't already. All right, Eric, I have to admit I don't have anything until we get over to the trades and stuff in the back of the DC Go.
Same for me.
You wouldn't happen to be starting at page 62, would you?
I would be.
Okay. Not like we'll be purchasing this, but this is one of those things like, let's not forget that Eric and I celebrate birthdays in December, so you have plenty of time to save up. Because our birthdays are right near Christmas, and you could always combine the two. We don't frown on that. We don't frown on combining Christmas and birthday. A lot of people think we would, but we don't.
I don't know, George. I think we might have to try to convince our loved ones to go halvesies on this, and then we'll have to ship it back and forth. You get it half the year, and I get it the other half. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Because something, we'll have to work that out. I just wish we weren't across the country from each other.
Right. Considering the shipping, it might it might be cost prohibitive. But oh my God, Crisis on Infinite Earths box set for $500.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Do you want to know the truth here? As awesome as this is, I know you're going to go into it in detail, but if I was going to spend $500, if I had it to burn and it was burning in my pocket, I'd want a piece of original art from this, rather than in any of these issues. It doesn't have to be from Crisis of Infinite Earths 1 through 12. Any of these issues, I'll take it. But of course, I would want the George Perez art from one of these issues. But if I had that $500 burning a hole in my pocket, I think that's where I would want to place the funds. I know it sounds silly, but
the box itself that they're showing here on these 2 pages, wonderful. I think we've seen versions of this art before. Yeah, I think it's very similar. Yeah. But it looks very nice. But why $500? Because you get a bunch of hardcovers. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. At least 13 hardcovers plus this other thing that they don't identify as a hardcover or trade. So I'm not sure what it is. This is probably the first time I've ever seen a collection of comics with an approximate weight value assigned to it. This is almost 30 pounds, they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Now, all you people out there who are digital only, look at this on pages 62 and 63. Wouldn't you want this? Forget your digital stuff. And forget that it's $500. Just look at it. And you tell me whether digital is better than this.
Just for the cost alone?
Well,
I think it's an easy answer, George.
Oh, well.
And I say that because
I guess I didn't make my case.
I think a lot of these issues, maybe not all of them. Now I'm going to have to go look. A lot of these issues are currently on the DC Universe app.
I see. All right. Touche, pussycat.
Yeah. But still, just the mind boggles. A $500 collection.
I know.
Crazy.
Man. Are you a fan of The Big Bang Theory?
I used to be. I used to watch it.
Did you ever see the episode where they bid on the time machine from the movie, The Time Machine, the H.G. Wells, but from the movie?
I hadn't seen that.
Okay, so they bid on it, and they think that it's a little desk-size replica, but it turns out to be the actual set prop, so it's huge. Mm-hmm. But all the friends chipped in for it, and their solution for what did we just do? You get it 1 week, I get it 1 week, whatever. We have to put it in your apartment, we have to put it in my apartment, so that's what we have to do with this.
Yeah. But
again, they all live within driving distance of each other, and you and I will have to use the U.S. Postal Service. So,
yeah.
Remember, December, folks. December.
Yeah,
plenty of time.
Well, and this I was just going to mention earlier. This is the on sale date for this is November of 2019.
Perfect.
Not for things that are I forgot to mention, as I usually do, on sale mostly in June.
Mm-hmm.
So. Not this case.
And that one item makes up a nice percentage of the $76,940.48. Well, actually, that dollar figure is only for the main catalog, isn't it?
Is it?
I'm not sure. You know what? I never really thought about that. But either way, the catalog itself, it does say it would cost $76,940.48 for all 2,813 items in this issue. So you know what? It may just be the actual catalog itself.
Mm-hmm.
But that $500 does make up a bit of a percentage off of that amount there.
Yeah.
So think about that, folks.
A couple pages later, George, speaking of box sets, there's another box set here at a much more affordable price. and I only note it because, it's...
Was it $495?
No, it's only a mere $99.99.
Ooh.
This is the Flashpoint box set, but this is and also on sale in November, which is weird because this is a collection of trades, not hardcovers. So a fifth of the price for half of the collected editions, but these are in trade. So I don't know that this is a better value. It does not say.
See, there you go. It's all about the pounds.
That's right.
Well, since we're talking about high-ticket items on page 77, for anybody who has never read Y the Last Man Omnibus hardcover is coming out. It's for a mere $150 on sale in December, a couple of weeks before Christmas. Brian K. Vaughan, Pia Guerrera, and Jose Marzan Jr., Goran Parloff, a whole mess of other folks. I read this in trade, took it out from the library only a year or two ago, and enjoyed the heck out of it.
It's a really great story.
I had always wanted to read it. And as I was reading it, I may not have even started to read Saga yet when I finally read this. And I kept saying to myself, how did people read this? Because every issue ended in such a cliffhanger. And then I realized Saga was doing the same thing to everybody. Mm-hmm. All these cliffhangers and Paper Girls too.
You can certainly see the DNA of those later books in things like Y the Last Man from Brian K. Vaughan.
And this is going to be a TV show, isn't it?
Is it? I know it was optioned, but are they actually making it?
You know what? Whenever I hear stuff like that, I don't follow enough to know whether they started filming or not. So we'll have to rely on some of your listeners to let us know.
But, forget your Walking Deads. This is the post-apocalyptic story that you want to read or view, I guess. Read and view.
Talk about not having to explain things. Although Walking Dead I guess Walking Dead did to some extent explain. Well, on the TV show, it explained why there were zombies. I never read the comics, so I don't know if they did, but there was never really an explanation as to why, pardon the pun, things happened the way they did at the beginning of that story, right? I mean, it just happened.
Right.
And you don't really need to know the why. Mm-hmm. Nobody was ever seeking the reason why or a solution. They were just trying to survive and figure out how do we repopulate when there's just a guy out there. That's one of those examples where they didn't have to explain it.
Yeah.
You just take it. This is the world. Bing, bang, boom. Move on.
Right.
Now, like Dial H for Hero, where we got to find out where did the dial come from. Who cares?
I think that's about it, George, for DC for me. Is there anything
else?
Same
here. No, same here. Want to move on?
I guess, before we do that, I guess we could, or I should mention the Mr. Miracle, Tom King, Mitch Gerrard's hardcover.
Mm-hmm.
Although
never heard of it?
Yeah, I know, right? The comic you might have never heard of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And on the previous page, this is on 78 and 79. They have Batman White Knight from Sean Murphy. But these are hardcover editions available exclusively to Diamond accounts. So I don't. Does that mean we can't order them?
I don't know. Maybe that means bookstores don't get them or something, or
yeah, maybe.
I don't know how that all works.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to take a look at that when I go to do my order.
That is the thing about previews. I sometimes forget that it's also a tool for the stores.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's what it's for.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not geared to us. It's to the real retailer, and we just have the benefit of thumbing through it also.
Mm-hmm. All right. Go to Marvel then?
Yeah.
We'll skip
I have to admit, I don't have anything till page 27.
Where did I... Oh,
How sad is that? War of the Realms is going on,
yeah.
and I didn't even pick anything for War of the Realms. This has nothing against anybody who's enjoying it. I haven't read any of it at the time of this recording. I think only one issue is out, and I don't know how many tie-ins are out already. I know people are probably enjoying it. It was one of the picks at Comic Logic, my local comic shop, but I don't know. 50-year-old me just not into it.
Well, I'm still waiting to start into it because I haven't gotten those issues yet, but here we are with the finale of it, issues 5 and 6 for the main series. So there you go. In case you blinked and you missed it, I don't know. But
is it a 6 issue? It's 6 issues.
Right? Yeah, it's just 6 issues. But before that, the big news coming out of which con was it? WonderCon?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I think it was WonderCon.
Okay.
This is on page 1 of the catalog. It is the House of X and Powers of X from Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, and R.B. Silva, coming in July. So it's Hickman doing X-Men.
Yeah.
Hickman returns to the Marvel Universe here. And
I'm actually excited about it, but I don't know if I'm going to pick it up. I don't know what to do.
I'm going to have to. It's Hickman.
Yeah.
So. He's one of those writers that I will try anything out that he puts out.
There you go.
Unfortunately, and I don't know if this has anything. My head is saying yes. Blame Marvel for this. Really, it's to blame Hickman. But I also, speaking of cancellation from DCBS, I got another notice, a bunch of notices coming out of DCBS this week that Black Monday Murders #9, which I had pre-ordered, was canceled.
DCBS never has a message that says, "Hey, Eric, you've been such a good customer. We're going to float you this trade for free."
It's really not fair to blame DCBS because they're just doing their job, but
not their fault.
It really irritates me that all this stuff that I ordered I'm not going to get.
I know. Good on the pocketbook though.
That is true. Very true. What page did you say you had something on?
Well, I picked pages 26 and 27. It's a double page spread for Black Cat, number 1, new ongoing for the fan favorite character. And once again, Troy, who was on the show from Previews a couple of months ago, he joined us for a Previews episode. He would probably hate that we say what we say, or maybe the publishers would hate this more. We keep calling things out, but we're always like, maybe some of our listeners will like it, right? Mm-hmm. Not me. And Black Cat, number 1, doesn't interest me at all, but I know it's going to interest a lot of people. It's going to be high profile. It's a fan favorite character. It's written by Jed MacKay with art by Travel Foreman, another fan favorite. And just wanted to call it out in case anybody missed it, although I don't know how they would if they get previews. But if you don't get previews, please know that it's coming out in June.
Yeah, if I were getting this, I would definitely want to get the Phil Noto variant.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then on the next page, 28 and 29, is a new Silver Surfer miniseries, Silver Surfer Black, by Donny Cates and Trad Moore. Now, Silver Surfer is not a character that I typically follow, but I know Donny Cates he's kind of big at Marvel right now.
Yep.
And the preview images I'm seeing here look pretty neat.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm not a Trad Moore fan when it comes to his artwork, but I'm liking what I see on these pages. So, people change their style a little bit. Different characters are handled differently sometimes, so maybe I can get past his art, but I think this one might intrigue me enough to pick it up. Was that a backhand? That was like a backhand, like a passive aggressive way of saying I want to buy this. I think
I would be impressed if they actually did a black and white book, because the preview images that they have on this page are just in black and white, and considering that it is called Silver Surfer Black, I don't know. That would be a good idea, I think.
It's funny you say that because you're right. Tradd Moore's artwork does lend itself to black and white because you're right. These pages on page 28 look nice. Very interesting. Did you see on an aside, since Galactus is part of the Silver Surfer story here? Did you see the tweet making its way around the Twitterverse of the black hole that everybody has been talking about?
Oh my God, I was so excited to see that.
And I forgot who originated it, although I retweeted it. It's probably been retweeted 10 million times. But somebody took that photo. Then what they did was in another frame, rather than have the black hole round, they made it square. Nobody can see what I'm doing with my hands right now from round to square. And then the next picture was a close-up of Galactus, and the square was his eye.
Ah, I missed that.
As if the black hole was really just Galactus's eye. So I thought that was pretty neat.
That is cool. I saw a lot of Eye of Sauron.
Oh, there you go. I haven't seen that one, but that's a good one. And my wife pointed out to me on one of these, I think our local veterinarian did it, a black cat sleeping kind of in a circle on a white blanket and saying, "This is the real black hole." And it was kind of cute. So listen, when you have a benevolent overlord who's a feline, you tend to go to the tweets that are about cats.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, George, were you ever into Peter David's and Dale Keown's Incredible Hulk?
I was.
Really? So are you intrigued by this out of nowhere one shot by these two gentlemen?
The fact that it's a one shot gives it a chance in my book. But to be honest with you, it is exciting. Again, 25-year-old, 30-year-old me would have been all over this to buy this. Me today, it may not make the cut.
Really?
Yeah. But I like that it's there. And I know there are other people there who are fans like us that will jump all over this.
See, I didn't read any of the Peter David Hulk. But I've heard from so many people over the years how good it really is. And so I see this one shot. I'm like, well, 40 pages, $5. It's a one-time purchase. I don't have to buy a bunch of issues. Mm-hmm. I might try it just to see what people are talking about. And although this is not from the original run, it's just, a revisit to the run.
Nothing else. The artwork's going to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that might have been what got me into the book at the time. I just probably picked up some random book I saw on the stands. Probably came in on the middle of some storyline, and I think the artwork hooked me more than the story. I eventually got into the story, but I think it was that artwork. I just couldn't get over how beautiful it was. So you folks may want to check this out, even if you've never read those particular Hulk issues. This would probably be a nice one-shot story to just pick it up.
Yeah, it's definitely going on the list. We'll see if it actually makes the cut, depending on how much I'm spending this month. But
this is a dangerous catalog, especially when we get into the main catalog for me. Mm-hmm. Very, very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if I told you, I guess 2 months ago when we might have mentioned this book, The Immortal Hulk, issue number 19, is solicited on page 32. Now, people are loving this book. Are you reading it?
I read the first set of issues in trade, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
I haven't picked up any of it, but I picked up issue 15 this month, based solely on the cover, which was an Alex Ross cover, which Alex Ross has been doing the covers. It was the Hulk's on the psychiatrist couch, and Doc Samson is sitting there with his pad out, psychoanalyzing the Hulk. I knew I was coming in the middle of a story arc, and I haven't done that in a while. Hey kids, back in the day when there were the spinner racks that you hear so much about, you'd look at the rack, you'd see a cover, it would strike you, you'd have 2 quarters burning in your pocket, you'd plunk it down at 7-Eleven and then also buy your Slurpee. Go out and you'd read this story. You'd probably be in the middle of some 5-issue arc or something like that, with subplots galore all over the place. But you were mesmerized by the story. There was a lot of action in there. There were editor's notes. There were captions. It explained everything that was kind of weird that you thought you should know. They explained it to you in some respects. And you read it, and then if you were lucky, maybe the next issue would be on the rack next month. Maybe not. You never knew. I haven't done that in a long time. Just pick up an issue in the middle of something. And based on that cover, I did that. Read the issue. So it was kind of like an experiment. I enjoyed the issue, but I'll admit I was a tad bit confused. Not that I couldn't follow the story, but because it was explaining so many things that happened in the past, I wanted to know when those things happened in the past. And back in my day, there'd be little things that said, see issue number 34, True Believer, way back in issue number 2 in the 60s, Excelsior, or whatever it would say. I found I missed that stuff. Not that I would go run and get those issues out, but I wanted to know that everything that we're talking about actually happened somewhere. And I wanted to know where that somewhere was. And the absence of that actually took away from the story. Now, I know today a lot of people probably would find that distracting, but I miss it. And I'm a little intrigued to pick up the next issue, but I probably won't. But it was a good read. It wasn't the type of issue I thought it was going to be. I thought it was actually going to be more of not actually the Hulk sitting on a couch being psychoanalyzed, but I thought it was going to be more of a psychoanalysis, almost what everybody has been talking about. They thought Heroes in Crisis would be. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought this issue of the Hulk would be. But it was good. So as an experiment, I came away with a positive experience. Just picking up an issue in the middle of a story I'm intrigued enough to pick up the next issue, but I'll be okay if I know.
Yeah.
Now, that's not what a publisher wants to hear. That's not what a writer wants to hear.
Yeah,
but I was able to pick up an issue in the middle and be intrigued enough by it to maybe want to get back issues or read further. It's just in my current budgetary climate, I can't add another book.
Yeah. But I would think that's always the hope of these publishers, especially
Mm-hmm.
Marvel and DC, is that regardless of where they're at in the storyline, the current storyline, it's someone that could be their first issue.
Exactly.
And then hook them into more. So
yeah. So as an experiment, and
thing.
I was pleasantly surprised because I went in almost negative because I think I had been complaining that it is hard for somebody to just pick up an issue if you don't know it's the beginning of a story arc or something. And this kind of proved me wrong. And in fact, I just bought Doctor Strange number 12, which in essence, the legacy numbering would be 402. It's the one with Galactus on the cover. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's the beginning of an arc, or I haven't read it yet, or it's in the middle of an arc, because I would have thought maybe with issue 400, they started a new storyline, so I'm thinking I'm coming in kind of in the middle, but I bought it based on the cover. So I'm interested to see how that one works out. And I will report back.
Sounds good.
Do you do that at all? Do you ever pick up a book in the middle of a storyline? Purposely.
I love the idea, but so I assume you got those issues at Comic Logic, right?
I did. Yeah, they were on the rack, and we had talked about both of them. I think based on the cover 2 months ago, probably if we listened back to the tapes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a great cover.
And once I saw them, I said, I'm going to pick them up. We talked about them. We read the solicit. I'm going to pick them up.
Yeah. See, my problem is I don't really have a shop nearby to do that with.
Right.
And so all my stuff is pre-order a few months in advance, and so I have to be very careful about what I order.
Exactly. Right. And you can't make that last minute decision just walking into the store and say, "Oh, it would be nice to grab that book." Mm-hmm.
Actually, I can to a limited degree. I just don't do it just because of mostly for budgetary reasons.
Same here, and I'm guessing. I don't know if a lot of your listeners dislike when we talk about our budgets, but I mean, we have to be honest, right? I mean, That's one of the reasons why we say, "Oh, this looks good," but I'm not picking it up.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really what's guiding.
I'm sure we're just putting voice to what they are thinking themselves.
And if they're not thinking it, then I will remind everybody once again that Eric's birthday is in December, and the Crisis on Infinite Earths box set is only $500.
Only $500.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you're going in the catalog, but since you just said that, this is a good segue to this. You know what half of $500 is, George?
What would that be? I'm not very good at math.
Well, it would be the $250 Daredevil by Frank Miller box set slipcase, which is on page 104 of the Marvel catalog.
Okay, so you had nothing before 104?
I don't, actually. No.
Okay. While you talk that up, let me see if there's anything I had worth looking at here.
Well, I mostly put this on here for a couple of reasons. One, it's Frank Miller again, but it's his Daredevil run, which is fantastic. But other people besides me have often complained about Marvel's pricing, especially for their trades. And here we have a bunch of trade paperbacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, that's a poster. There are 8 trades for $250.
When's that coming out? Is that another December or November thing?
It says October.
Okay. So all this has to be holiday.
I guess
pre-thinking the holidays.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a nice collection of the Frank Miller Daredevil stuff, but $250?
I know.
Ugh. All right. What do you have before that, George?
Okay. Well, in singles, on page 39, Spider-Man Annual #1 featuring Spider-Ham. Spider-Ham is a fan favorite for people who were reading comics in the 80s, but because of the movie Into the Spider-Verse, I think a new generation might have been introduced to Spider-Ham. Yes. So here's a book that I think can be enjoyed by kids from 1 to 92. Because we've been mentioning December, I have the Christmas song in my head.
You already have Christmas on your mind.
Well, there's less than 9 months to go.
Oh,
so,
George, I don't know that we could be friends anymore.
Well, listen, you've maintained our friendship, even though I like snow.
That's true.
Yeah. So if you can get around that,
my wife loves snow, and I still am married to her. So
yeah.
Since we're talking about Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham, George, did you notice on page 137 the complete collection trade paperback?
Yes.
So the stuff that you are just referencing, you can get in a nice trade now.
And especially for those who have never read it. Well, it's nice to revisit it for those of us who read it 30 years ago. But for those of you who haven't, here you go.
Have I told you my Marvel Tales featuring Peter Porker horror story before?
There's a horror story involving Peter Porker. Okay, let's hear it.
Just real quick. My friend Greg, a lifelong friend, comics lover as well. He bought Marvel Tales, Tales, that very first issue that featured Peter Porker and some other Marvel characters that were anthropomorphized. And he loaned it to me.
Okay.
Read. Just like your friends do.
Yes.
Read this comic. I'll read your comic, right? And so he gave that to me, but then he said, "Don't let anything happen to this."
Oh boy,
right?
Famously.
I know, right?
Well, are you sure you weren't in like a teen comedy?
No, felt like it. A teen tragedy. It turned out because so I take this home and it's sitting on my desk. I can't even remember if I read it or not at that point. I think I did. Okay. So it was sitting on my desk. My younger brother comes in and he sees that and he goes, "Oh, I want that.
Oh no,
I want to read that." And I'm like, "No." And so he's grabbing for it and I'm trying to prevent him from doing it. And in the ensuing chaos, the comic gets ripped. Like the cover, I think, got ripped.
Oh no.
And my heart sinks because my friend Greg had just told me, hours before probably, don't let anything happen to it. And I did. I felt like such a horrible friend
That is a horror story. I mean, I knew where that was going when you got to a certain point, and my heart sank.
It was a dark, dark day in my life, George.
And now, what does he do? He trolls you on Facebook to this day or something?
I don't even know if he remembers that story. I'll have to ask him about it. But
okay. Oh, he doesn't keep posting random pages
he's too good of a friend to
issue?
do that to me.
Okay. You know those facsimile editions that have been coming out? They have a Howard the Duck one on page 54. So if anybody's interested in Howard the Duck #1, a facsimile edition of that, and who knows, maybe one day they'll have a Marvel Tales Peter Porker one. You can buy one for your buddy and replace his book.
That's what that's what I was trying to remember as I was telling that story. Did I actually replace it? I think I did years later.
I'll bet you up until the moment that the Spider-Verse movie came out, you probably could have found that book in like a 50-cent dollar bin. Now I'll bet you it's on some wall for $50.
Yeah. You can't get that cheaply anymore.
I still read Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I think it's still the only thing on my pull list for Marvel. Issue number 44 is solicited on page 66, and it looks like there is a time crisis. So I always like time travel, alternate universe stories. We'll have to see how they handle that. And on page 90, I'm a big Disney fan. If anybody hasn't figured that out, I like the Disney parks. I like some Disney comics here and there. And I don't think I've mentioned it before, but here on page 90, there's a miniseries called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Number 3 is solicited in this issue, so I'm guessing number 1 is out now. And this is a comic that's almost like a tie-in to the new Star Wars land that's opening in the Disney parks.
Oh.
Because it's called Galaxy's Edge, at least in Disneyland. I guess it's going to be called that in Disney World.
Yep.
But so that's what this is. So this is it even says it here. Based on Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the new themed land coming this year to Disneyland and Walt Disney World. So if anybody's interested in that, maybe you can pick up issue number 1 now at your local comic shop and pre-order number 3 here. Past 2 months, I've forgotten to call that one out. For $125, you can have the Namor the Submariner by John Byrne and Jay Lee omnibus hardcover. Now, did you collect that when it was coming out back in the 90s?
No. Namor's never been a character that I cared for.
Back then, John Byrne was one of the writers I would follow no matter what he did. And when he did the Submariner, even though I wasn't much of a fan, I picked up the book, stuck with it a while, but I eventually dropped it. So I never even read the Jay Lee stuff. Later on, when I think Namor lost his memory or something like that, and I forget what the story was. One of the things I've always said was, hey, it's nice to have all these prints and posters and stuff, but it would be nice to have postcards of some of the great art. And on page 106, they have Marvel 80th Anniversary Postcard Book hardcover and Spider-Man Postcard Book hardcover. And last month, I don't know if we talked about it, but they had Marvel's, the 25th anniversary. And I think they were all Alex Ross postcard-sized pieces of art from Marvel's. I almost pre-ordered the Alex Ross one from Comic Logic, but I mean, they're $20. I guess maybe you get 20 postcards. I'm not sure. So, I mean, it's a good price for what you get, but I didn't want to spend the $20. But here, Marvel is finally giving me what I've always wanted. Postcards of great artwork. So if anybody else has felt the way that I had, that maybe a more manageable sized piece of artwork, maybe you could put on your desk. You know, these posters, they're nice, but who's got the wall space for it, right? And let's face it, if you're a married adult, you know, maybe your significant other isn't going to be too happy if you put a poster of the Fantastic Four in the kitchen.
Yeah. Well, so this both of these say 84 pages, George.
Yes. Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, so that really is a bargain then.
I kind of think so.
Yeah, and now I regret not getting the Alex Ross one.
Well, and I don't even remember seeing that one, so I'm regretting that now too. Oh well.
There used to be. I mentioned this on the old George and Tony show before. there used to be a museum in Baltimore right near where the Orioles and the Ravens play. Jeppy's Entertainment Museum. It's since closed. It closed last year, I think. And in their gift shop, one of the things that they did have postcards. I don't know who made them, but a lot of the postcards were reproductions of comic book covers, which I thought was really cool. So I bought a lot of those. So I do actually have postcard size artwork of comic book covers and random artwork from inside comics. In fact, I would buy doubles or triples and I would just mail them to friends. I'd write a little note on them. Hi, wish you were here. And then just, mail it on out. So I always thought that was cool. That was the only place I ever saw that. I mean, that would be a cool thing to have at a comic book store.
Mm-hmm.
Just random postcards and stuff like that. All right. Anything else in the back of the book here?
Well,
so I turn the pages, which makes for great audio.
Yeah.
Did Peter Rios mention that we shouldn't be turning pages on a? I'll have to listen to find out.
Not to that. No, not that particular point there, George. But
okay.
On page 118 is the second volume of the West Coast Avengers by Kelly Thompson and Danielle D. Nicuola. Olo?
Mm-hmm.
I just violated one of Peter's points about
what was the rule?
Making sure you're pronouncing the artists and the creators' names properly. So
okay, all right, Peter. To that point, I know there would have to be some sort of. All you'd have to do is dig maybe into an interview where the person says their own name, so that you can know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, then I think in these catalogs we need phonetic spelling. I think the onus is on the solicitor.
We're poking fun a bit, but I totally do agree with what Peter was saying.
No, I'm joking around. Sorry, Peter.
So anyway, there's the West Coast Avengers Volume 2, and I was excited about this, George, because I had just read the first volume of West Coast Avengers. So I pre-ordered that. I sat down in the last week and read it, and I'm like, this is a great book. I can't wait for the next trade to get. And I see this in here. And then right after I see this trade in the catalog, George, I find out that the book has been canceled.
Oh, yep. What, was it even in here? Is it canceled already? Like it's not even solicited?
Because the last issue is number 10, and this collects issues 5 through 10.
Well, at least you'll have a complete set.
That's true. Very true.
And I feel I got to go back to Peter Rios really quick, your co-host on the Legion Project podcast. Peter, you know I'm just funning you, and I thank you for running the still defunct George and Tony promo for our appearance on Livestream for the Cure. I didn't mean anything by it. Mea culpa. Okay, anyway, moving on. On page 128.
Okay.
Were you a fan of the Star Wars comic strip in the newspapers back in the day, or did you read it?
I had no idea there was a Star Wars comic strip, because in my neck of the woods, they didn't run comic book-based strips.
What? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
What's going on out there on the West Coast?
Welcome to the inland Northwest, George.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a collection of Star Wars newspaper strips. The second volume, it's a trade paperback on page 128 for $40. I will say this. Back in the day, I used to actually clip the strips, and I would put them on a page so that they would look like a comic book.
Ah.
Yeah.
How is it any wonder? Of you?
Is that any wonder why I didn't date until after college? Sorry, ladies, I was taken by the comics. No, I used to have those among other comic strips I used to clip until, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years after I moved to Virginia. We were doing some cleaning up. And then the adult in me, namely my wife, saying, do we really need this? And she was right, because most of these things you could get in a trade paperback form. And I was like, I haven't looked at them ever. They're not comics themselves, so there's really no intrinsic value there. So I got rid of them. And ever since then, I regret it.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew you were going to say that.
I don't know why I did that. I had so many. And I mean, Ziggy's, and I even called Ziggy. Does anybody even remember Ziggy?
I do.
Well, you and I do, but I mean, Ziggy was the best. All right, anybody else looking for classic stories out there? The New Mutants, the Demon Bear Saga is collected in a trade paperback.
I'm getting that.
Page 130, Chris Claremont with pencils by Sal Buscema, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Bob McLeod. Now, I told you that there's a book club over at Comic Logic, right? Mm-hmm. And I went to the last one I went to for Captain Marvel. For some reason, somebody brought up the Demon Bear Saga. And they said, oh, I was loving the New Mutants. But then when that artist came on with the Demon Bear, it totally turned me off. And it's interesting to hear how different people think, right? And this guy's my age. So he was reading it at the same age I was when I was reading it. And I love it. I loved that artwork. Totally different than what it was before. Wasn't a house style at all. And I'm guessing that's why I loved Moon Knight so much, because, man, Moon Knight used to blow my mind, that Moon Knight comic. But when Bill Sienkiewicz went to New Mutants, didn't turn me off at all. In fact, if anything, it invigorated me because it was so different. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I enjoyed it. But it was interesting to hear how somebody, same demographic, same age, reading it at the same time, just wasn't resonating with them at the time. Different strokes.
Yeah, I talked about this before, I think, but I didn't really care for Sienkiewicz's style when I first saw it. And this is before I read any of the New Mutants issues. But for some reason, that story, and I was reading one of my friends, it was either Travis or Greg's copies of New Mutants. And I was reading those and reading the Demon Bear Saga, which I really don't remember much about it at all. But what I do recall is that art.
Yeah.
And that art really fit the story very well. So I'm looking forward to getting this epic collection and actually, rereading it and enjoying it from a perspective that is now 35 years later.
Exactly.
Or something like that.
Well, on page 133, there's yet another collection of the Dark Phoenix saga for the movies. I'm guessing that's more for new readers because the movie's coming out. Any of your listeners, if they don't know what the Dark Phoenix saga is, somehow they just stumbled onto your show and never listened to it before, because I can't imagine any of your listeners don't know what the Dark Phoenix saga is.
Well, and interesting that they're called X-Men Milestones. So I guess it's in the water, because I talked last time or the last couple previews episodes about DC taking on these new trade names, collection names, right? And so, I don't recall seeing Marvel Milestone trade collections before until this, but yeah, they're doing it too.
Well, what interests me more is what's on the next page, on page 134, Havoc and Wolverine Meltdown trade paperback. I bought this when this came out. Now, this is written by Walter Simonson and Louise Simonson, with pencils by John J. Muth and Kent Williams. Yeah. This book I enjoyed. I remember enjoying it. Now, I couldn't tell you details about this book. I just remember enjoying it when it came out. And it was one of those prestige format things when it came out. Mm-hmm. So this would be interesting for people to pick up. In fact, I recall even having a T-shirt with this image of the first cover on it. I enjoyed it that much. I probably pre-ordered it from previews back in the day.
Yeah, this is a series that I also got when it was first released, and then I got rid of it years later. And I, much like you just said, I regretted it ever since.
Talk about your collections here on page 136. If you're a fan of humor, you were talking about Peter Porker on page 137. On the facing page on 136, Not Brand Eck. Mm-hmm. The complete collection, a lot of it penciled by Marie Severin, the late great, and you have Jack Kirby, Gene Colan. The humor might be a little dated, I would think, because I've recently read a few old ones, but it's good nostalgia for people who were little back then, and maybe the humor was a little over their heads.
I really like that they're doing this. I can't imagine this is going to be like a really huge seller for them, given that it's not, your typical Marvel stuff. But the fact that it's, Marvel's 80th year, I like that they're celebrating that with something like this that's not their usual stuff. And as you pointed out, Marie Severin did a lot of this stuff. So I appreciate that they're doing it.
Definitely geared to our demographic. I would be interested, now that we'll be doing a show with someone who works at Comic Logic, and I'll be talking with her and the gang over there more often than I do now. I'm going to start asking them questions about demographics and stuff like that, just for my own curiosity. Like, does even a 30-year-old pick up Not Branagh? Or is it the holdovers who just haven't stopped when they were buying in the 70s and the 80s? Be interested to find that out.
Anything else from Marvel?
No, not at all.
All right, let's move on to the big book.
Okay. Hey, should we take this opportunity here to talk about our friend Lisa Wu?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Should we? We should have done this at the beginning, but this is a good spot here since we're going to get out of the big publishers and we're going to get into some of the smaller ones. I don't know if anybody knows who Lisa Wu is, but she used to be marketing. Was she a marketing director or marketing person over at Aftershock?
Marketing something, yes. I forget now what her title was.
And she was key in coordinating with the 4 creators of the Rough Riders comic to come onto your show and talk to you. And they even said it themselves, it was the only time the 4 of them spoke together on a show. We had Adam Glass, Patrick Oliff, Gabe Altrieb, and Sal Cipriano. Everybody from the writer, the penciler, colorist, and the letterer on the show, and that was all because she helped us coordinate that to get them onto your show. Mm-hmm. Well, she's moved on. Go ahead. You say your thing first.
This was episode 137, the Rough Riders Creative Team Chat, if anybody wants to go back and listen to that.
Well, now she's moved on to a different publishing company called A Wave Blue World. And they have a Kickstarter going on right now for their new project called Deadbeats. And it is an anthology, and they've already unlocked some of their, what do they call them, stretch goals? Mm-hmm. They've already unlocked some of those goals. So if you check it out, they're already halfway to where they want to be. And I believe their Kickstarter campaign ends the first week of May. So you still have some time. Get in there, get in on some of the PDFs of the book, the actual book, signed book plates. Original artwork is up for grabs depending on the level that you can contribute at. Check it out. We're always looking at new creative teams, new creators, and new publishers. And Lisa Wu is, Eric, it's your show, but I'm going to say it. She's a friend of the show. So that's the unabashed plug outside of the book because they won't be in the book.
All right.
All right. Where do you want to start here?
Let's Image.
Okay. Now you're gonna hear paper here for 1 second. Can we talk about something prior to Image?
Sure.
Okay.
What do you got?
If people get previews, there are a lot of text pages that lead up to the actual previews themselves. Mm-hmm. And there is a page, page 15 in this case, where they grabbed 6 of their favorite tweets from the month. And I would like to quote Gail Simone. Gail Simone, who will be at All-Star Comic Con here in the Northern Virginia area the weekend of June 8th and 9th. And she simply said, "Never trust anyone who doesn't like Weird Al." And truer words have never been spoken. And I cannot wait to meet this woman, not because of the great comics she's written and the great blog she's put out there, but because she likes Weird Al.
My wife does too. Weird Al was at the last Rose City Comic-Con that we went to last year. Yeah. And
what was it like a photo op type of thing or just a panel, or what did he do?
He had a panel. That's the thing my wife attended.
Oh, God, I would have been there in a flash. Yeah.
She loved it.
Oh my God. He's awesome. You know how people say, there was this one person who inspired me, and that's why I became an astronaut, or that's why I became a politician, or I became an accountant. I'm telling you, when I was a kid, Weird Al, loved that guy. Love that guy. Would love to have. When I grow up, I want to be Weird Al. Man, I wish he would come to something like, All-Star Comic-Con's kind of small, relatively speaking, but here in the DC area, you have Awesome Con the weekend of April 26th. If Weird Al was going to be at that, I would go to that in a heartbeat.
I have to say, George, doesn't surprise me. You like Weird Al. That sounds kind of weird when you say things like someone inspired me to be a politician.
I know. Well, I don't think there's any politician today that's inspiring anybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, very true.
And if there is, we're in deep trouble. Okay, so Image it is, huh?
Image.
Oh,
go ahead.
What about Free Comic Book Day? Does that come later, or is that before Image?
That's before Image.
Okay, real quick, let's not forget that Free Comic Book Day is going to be May 4th this year, because there won't be another previews episode before that.
Exactly, yeah.
So just a reminder that in your previews, if you're following along, I think they start on page 36, is it? Yeah. Check it out, because every comic book store does something different. Mm-hmm. They may set a limit to items that they'll give away. You have that rare store that'll just let you take anything you want out of the free comic book offerings. No matter what your comic book store does on Free Comic Book Day, and you go there, after you grab your free books, check out their shelves. Don't forget they still pay for these books. I know you're like, well, I don't care if they pay for the books. They're giving them away for free. Well, you know what? There's a ton of stuff on the shelves in there. Go in there, buy a book, buy a trade, buy a statue, buy something.
Yeah. Throw them some shekels.
Exactly. I've circled the ones that I want, so I'm good to go. You and I have talked about it on past episodes, but there are plenty of things out there for everybody, young and old. Mm-hmm. All right, so Image it is.
Image it is on page 44. This is a miniseries called Thumbs by Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman.
Yes, now listener of the show, friend of the show, Zed Ram, a frequent tweeter, who I love his tweets. He actually made his own list of things that he was interested in, a lot of number ones, and he called out the show and said, I bet George and Eric are going to talk about a lot of these number ones here. And as I was going through his list, I was like, in an effort to kind of streamline the show, which I am obviously not doing right now, but in an effort to streamline the show, I skipped a lot of the things in his list.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, Thumbs was on his list.
Okay.
So I'm going to be very curious to see if you have, I don't have his list in front of me, but I do remember Thumbs was on, and as you call out some other things, I'll bet you they were on his list. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Well,
so what about Thumbs?
I just thought it was interesting. Imagine someone like, say, Mark Zuckerberg created his own army of tech-obsessed teens and directed them to take on the government. What would the fallout be? So it's an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. And then you turn the page and you get a couple, 4 pages here of some preview art. And it was very striking that they chose to do basically essentially a grayscale, but with this pink color as the only splash of color in these panels. That's an interesting choice, and it certainly is striking.
Yeah, the artist is Hayden Sherman. I'm unfamiliar with his work. But you're right, it is striking.
And then following that on page 50 is The Ride, Burning Desire, also a 5-issue miniseries by Doug Wagner, Daniel Hilliard, and Adam Hughes on art as well. But
now that's interior art, huh? Oh, no.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
it says
Yeah.
artists Hilliard and Hughes with Adam Hughes covers. Really what I wanted to point out was it says the ride celebrates its 15th anniversary with this new story. I had never heard of this book.
I have to admit I haven't either.
But you can get the ride volumes 1 and 2 from Image along with this new continuing story.
And another book highlighted by a listener of the show, Zed Ram, in his Twitter feed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not paying me by the mention of his name, by the way.
Do you have the next thing on the next new book on page 54? Did you note that one?
I did not, but he did.
Okay, well, I was going to do that one too. This is Sonata. This is looks like it's an ongoing series, a new sci-fi series. And the reason I wanted to point this out was the art looks fantastic because, so this is written by David Hine and Brian Haberlin, and Haberlin is doing, along with, Jared Van Dyke, they're doing the art here. And, Haberlin worked on the fantastic science fiction series that ended way too soon, Faster Than Light.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, such a good series, George. So
is that an image series?
I think it was, yeah.
Oh,
But it was one of my very favorite things that I've read in the last couple of years.
interesting.
And with these guys back together doing this work, I think I'm gonna have to pick this up. And let's see what I didn't even really see what it was about. No, I did read it. So in this all new series, two cultures clash on a planet they each believe is their promised land. So this looks to me to be a bit like, is this some sort of allegory for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, and if it is, I mean, that's what science fiction does really well, is allegory. So, given the wonderful, I mean, are you looking at the preview art pages here, George?
Oh yeah, I will admit they are beautiful.
It's beautiful. I can't wait to read this book.
All right, so what's next?
Well, the book that we will not be able to read after this issue comes out is The Wicked and Divine, number 45, which is the Sad Face series finale of this great series.
I have not read it, but I look forward to reading it all at once in some sort of a trade format.
You are going to love it.
I can't wait. And I love the solicit. The title is okay. And then it says it's the conclusion. Thanks for reading. We'll miss you.
Yeah.
I love it.
The solicitation text for Wicked and Divine has just been delightful for this entire run. Not to mention
Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey.
Yeah.
And Matt Wilson.
And Matt Wilson, yes. Because all their work together has just been out of this world on that book. So,
and I wouldn't be doing my job on this show if I didn't tell everybody that on page 58 for Spawn number 298, there is an homage cover. Now, Todd McFarlane is celebrating his own work from the cover of Amazing Spider-Man number 298. Funny that it's Spawn number 298.
You think it might be a coincidence, George?
I think not. And the funny thing is, if you were to look back at that original Amazing Spider-Man number 298 cover, the caption on the cover said "Chance Encounter," because the enemy who was firing upon Spider-Man, his name was Chance. Well, the enemy firing upon Spawn, I don't know what that person's name is, but instead of Chance Encounter, it says Deadly Encounter. So he even incorporated the captioning into his homage to himself. And I would guess that he's going to do the same for number 299 and number 300.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even the title Spawn on the cover looks very much like Spider-Man
And the
back
corner
in the day.
box.
And that's right. Yeah.
The corner box has Spawn running just like Spider-Man was running back then.
I wonder what Marvel thinks of him doing that.
All right, what else you got in here?
Are you a fan, or have you read much of Paul Pope's work?
I have not. I'm aware of him, but I'm trying to think if I've ever read any of his work. I have not.
That's the thing.
But I as relayed on the George and Tony Entertainment Show, Greg Schiegel and Chris Giarusso and I ate Paul Pope's dessert at the Harvey Awards when he left the table.
Well, that trumps anything I was going to say. So
that's our claim to fame, and that's how I met the two of those great creators.
Wait, who initiated this
Greg,
culinary theft?
Well, it wasn't me. Was it Greg or was it Chris? You know something? I don't remember. I'd like to say it was Greg, but it seems like something more that Chris would have done. Knowing what little I know of their personalities, but Greg might have been the instigator on this.
I know you're trying to protect these guys, but come on, George, you don't steal a man's dessert.
No, you do. And it was yummy.
Yeah. Well, so like you, it's like Paul Pope is this comic creator that I am aware of, but I have not read a lot of. I haven't encountered a lot of his work. And so they have this on page 61, the Heavy Liquid trade paperback, celebrating the 20th anniversary of his Eisner-nominated sci-fi cyberpunk classic with this new edition. So in case people are like me and not knowing a whole lot of Paul Pope's work, here's your opportunity to get something. George, that's it for Image for me.
Okay, then the only other things I have are just my pull list. Paper Girls number 29, getting to the end. I think it's ending at number 30, so this is the penultimate issue of Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang and Matt Wilson.
Yeah, my pull list is going to get slightly smaller after this month, after these next couple months.
Yeah, things ending that you're collecting.
Yeah.
And Unnatural number 10 of 12, I'm collecting that by Mirka Andolfo. Otto Schmidt does the cover B, but I've been getting the cover A's. She does the writing and the artwork. So I am enjoying that book. And that is it when it comes to Image for me also. Let's move on, shall we?
Dark Horse?
Dark Horse, as I turn pages for sound effects here in the background.
Making it real, George. You're keeping it real there.
Okay, Black Hammer on page 98. Should we just get it out of the way? Since we always talk Black Hammer.
Sure.
All right. Black Hammer 45 from the world of Black Hammer. It's Black Hammer in 1945. I guess World War II Black Hammer. I picked up the first two issues. I haven't read them yet. Have you picked them up?
I was waiting for the trade on that one.
Waiting for a trade. Okay. And Black Hammer Age of Doom number 12 looks like this is the end of the Age of Doom title, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does say that specifically. In this final episode of the Age of Doom series, so what does that mean? Right. All the questions are finally answered about what put our heroes on the farm, why, and where we go from here.
Yeah. So we'll probably get another Black Hammer title with another subtitle in a couple of months. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and, they're doing, Jeff Lemire is doing that Black Hammer Justice League crossover.
Yes. And in fact... Oh, that's not solicited in here yet, right?
No,
so that was just announced at some convention or went out on social media or something. Yeah. How about on page 101? Do you have anything on page 101 by any chance?
I chose that one too.
All right, you do the talking.
Well, so I've been trying to get all of the Dark Horse Neil Gaiman books that he's been teaming up with some wonderful artists. This time, Snowglass Apples is the art is done by Colleen Duran, and in a coincidental moment here, just the other day because I follow her on Twitter, she was talking about basically we should get this book because she has done some things artistically in this book that she hasn't done before. I think she showed a couple previews that she on Twitter, and she said This is not even the best stuff.
Wow.
So, I mean, it looks beautiful, the cover that they show here. And Snow Glass Apples is actually one of my favorite short stories by Gaiman.
Oh, so you're familiar with the story?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're basically just well, I don't know if they've done it for every one of these things that Gaiman has written for these hardcover Dark Horse books, but a lot of them are adaptations of his written work.
The only one I have is How to Talk to Girls at Parties. That's the only one I bought so far. On page 107, The Borgias, trade paperback by Alejandro Jodorowsky and everybody calls him controversial, I guess. I mean, he had that one cover. I don't know. I can see why he's controversial. Milo Manara.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This just looks really good to me. When Pope Innocent VIII dies, the corrupt Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia schemes, murders, and seduces his way into becoming the new Pope, immediately securing positions for his family and thereby ensuring a Borgia dynasty. Their sweeping 4-part saga of sex, blood, and religion is now collected in a trade paperback edition for the first time. 216 pages for $30, on sale in August.
Mm-hmm. That's a lovely looking cover too.
Yeah, it just I don't know, just caught my eye. The solicit caught my attention. Maybe that's in the maybe pile.
What's not in the maybe pile I shouldn't say that. It really depends on the total, but I really want to get this one. It's on the previous page, and this is A Girl in the Bay trade paperback. This is a miniseries that I have been eyeing since it was first announced. This is written by J.M. DeMatteis with Corin Howell on the art and James Devlin doing colors, I guess. I'm looking forward to finally reading that. It sounds intriguing. 1969, a 17-year-old Kathy Satori is brutally attacked, her body hurled into Brooklyn's Sheepshead Bay. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I am not.
I mean, I never threw a body in there or anything, but I'm familiar with the bay.
But you know the bay. Anyway, miraculously, she survives and fights her way back to the surface only to discover that 50 years have passed and an eerie doppelganger has lived out an entire life in her place. That just sounds really cool.
Well, the last time that happened to me, no, I better not talk about that.
We don't talk about what happens in Sheepshead Bay, George.
Yeah. Well, I was more talking about, I don't talk about my doppelganger.
I want to jump back a couple pages to page 104, because this is another series from Dark Horse, that miniseries that I have been eyeing. I've been waiting for the trade. This is Weird by Kurt Pyers, Antonio Fuso, and Stefano Simeon. It just sounds, the government calls in this specialist, Peter Weird. Whatever mission needs doing, whatever mystery needs solving, the roguishly handsome and surprisingly tough Weird acts as a one-man black ops team. That just sounds something right up my alley.
I remember when number 1 came out, you were interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough call for a lot of this stuff, since there's a lot of trades, that I have been wanting to get that are coming out.
Yeah. Like I said, this book's a little dangerous this month.
Mm-hmm.
On page 114, I am a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, and there is a trade paperback called Spirits of the Dead, second edition trade paperback, with art and cover and written by Richard Corbin, adapting Edgar Allan Poe tales. In fact, it says here there are 16 of them in the book. So for any fans out there, it's a $20 book at 232 pages.
Have Richard Corbin and Edgar Allan Poe are ringing a bell in my head. Has he adapted other things like this?
You mean other Edgar Allan Poe tales?
Yeah.
No. Well, isn't he isn't he famous for like heavy metal covers and stuff like that?
Is that what it is? Okay.
But I mean, he may have done other Poe adaptations. I'm unaware of them. Maybe some of these have appeared elsewhere before. I don't know.
I just remember seeing Richard Corbin in here for doing something similar to this kind of a book. So Previous to that, George 113, this is a book that mostly it was the spelling of the character's name, Isabella. Spelled A-E at the end. So not your usual way to spell Isabella. But this is... I read the solicitation and, seeing the art here, there's this one-page preview of the art. I thought, well, this sounds cool. This is by Raul and Gabor. Two creators I've not heard of before. Let's see. It's originally a French series. It's about feudal Japan. So interesting mix of creators and setting. So a young girl who is the daughter of an Irish witch and a samurai master, Isabella Ashiwara, roams the countryside with her father's ghost at her side, earning her living by sword and searching for her long-lost sister, Syuku. That sounds just kind of cool.
It does.
And
all right, I am done with Dark Horse.
I was going to say that. So am I.
IDW?
IDW?
All right, Zed Ram called this one out on page 132, Usagi Yojimbo, number 1, moving over from Dark Horse after a long career at Dark Horse for years. What, decades, right?
I think that's right, yeah. It's been a long time.
Stan Sakai has moved his signature character over to IDW with a new number 1, so good jumping on point, as people say. He's the writer and the artist.
Yeah, new ongoing and in color.
Yeah.
That's one of those, I want to say, premier comic books that I've never read.
Same here. And if anybody's going to start, now might be a good time. In the famous IDW tradition of their licensing crossovers, we have on the next page, on page 134 and 35, Transformers Ghostbusters number 1. Yeah. With the new... So if you're going to combine the two franchises, what do you need? You need a combination of the plasmic monster and a transformer. And of course, what are you going to call it? An Ectotron. That might be worth the price of admission right there.
I have to admit that's pretty cool.
So you have writer Eric Burnham, and the art is by Dan Shonin. And how many issues is this thing? Oh, it doesn't say.
It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't say. I hate it when I do that.
Well, you have to guess it's a miniseries. Yeah, but if anybody's interested, Transformers Ghostbusters number 1.
So
look George, for it on your stands.
Do you think that is IDW's plan is just to pair up every 80s franchise eventually?
Well, I mean, they did that whole Hasbro-verse thing for a while there, didn't they? I'm waiting for the Dick Tracy Sonic the Hedgehog crossover.
See? There you go. There you go.
Page 139, once again to spotlight my pull list. I am going to continue with the new Clue book, Clue Candlestick number 2. Another book that I don't know how many issues it's going to be. But I'm in. By writer-artist Dash Shaw.
George, are you a fan of pro wrestling?
I am not. Are you?
I am not. But
okay.
I follow a lot of people on Twitter who are comic book fans, and surprisingly, from my limited viewpoint, pro wrestling. I don't know why people are so involved in pro wrestling, but they are, and there's this new book, Jim Cornette presents Behind the Curtain: Real Pro Wrestling Stories.
Right on page 145.
145, yes, exactly. So for like I said, I follow a lot of people who are fans of both, and suddenly here they converge.
I
don't know who Jim Cornette is. I recognize.
One of the pages at the bottom, it looks like they spotlight Andy Kaufman.
Yeah. Right? I was going to say, when I was a kid, back in the late 70s, wrestling was a thing. In fact, my mother used to watch some wrestling on television, and so that meant that I watched it.
Sure.
But it was nothing that I ever kept up with, never really cared for. But So I just find it interesting that here we are all these years later, and wrestling is still this phenomenal thing.
Well, isn't it Boom Studios? Don't they have a WWE comic?
Is that, I don't know.
Is it Boom? I think it's Boom. Or maybe it's their Kaboom part, but I think it's Boom.
Well, and even on the previous page, Glow number 4, Glow is about...
Oh, that's right.
About these lady wrestlers. So, it's a thing. And, right. Here you go.
Speaking of licensing, you and I always kind of point out that Disney licenses out their stuff to other companies besides Marvel, because I guess it's not the Marvel brand to do Disney stuff. At IDW, they're going to put out an original graphic novel of The Haunted Mansion.
Ah, yes.
By writer Sina Grace, and the artist is Ego Bartolini. And I am interested in this because I was a fan of the Marvel Disney miniseries Haunted Mansion. So I'm interested to see what they do here.
That's right. I was trying to remember, because this sounded familiar. I'm like, is this like a something that they've reissued or whatever? But yeah,
it's new.
You're absolutely right. But what I was trying to think of was the series that you just mentioned.
And this is a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Disneyland ride.
Yeah, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I love the Haunted Mansion. I was actually there right after Halloween one year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, wait, was it? Anyway, they still had the Halloween stuff up.
Okay.
And so that was cool. It was just really cool.
Yeah, I like the Haunted Mansion ride. So out of all the changes that they're making to the parks, I'm glad that they're not messing with the Haunted Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On page 164, there is Joseph Saraki and Kelly Williams, A Letter to Joe. That is, so this is a trade for an August release, it says, but basically it's about a soldier who would write letters back to his girl back in the USA, and he often can't tell her, or is not allowed to tell her, certain things that have been going on. But so it says here, finally, with the war coming to an end, Leonard, the character in the story, is able to tell his full story. In a quietly beautiful letter to Josephine, Leonard writes of the loneliness he felt, the camaraderie he experienced, and the terrible violence he witnessed. Oh, I'm sorry. This is actually Joseph Saraki is the grandson of these two people. I didn't see that before. So
yeah, that's what makes it ultra interesting.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Whoa, that's going to be a tough one. I really want to read. Yeah, to pass up. I really want to read that.
On page 166, again, part of my pull list, Punk's Not Dead and London Calling number 5. I believe this is the last issue of the second arc. Yeah, okay. I've been enjoying this book immensely, by David Barnett and Martin Simmons. If no one's picked this up yet, maybe you want to check out the first trade, see if it might be something for you. But then on the opposite page, on page 167, Maryland Manor number 1. I see you nodding your head. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, Eric? It's your show. Go for it.
That was really interesting. So this is from writer we mentioned before, Magdalene Visaggio, artist Marley Zarconi. Where were you, George, in 1981? When the White House goes dark for 17 days in August, the president's spoiled daughter and her best friend Abe, who claims to be possessed by the spirit of Abe Lincoln. Doesn't this just sound cool already?
They don't even have to say anymore.
They throw a rager at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, unearthing long-dead historical figures and government secrets that are better off buried. This just sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it is Zed Ram approved.
Good. So we share some things in common in terms of our taste, it sounds like, Zed.
Yeah.
And that's it. Oh, wait. Back to Maryland Manor real quick. In my notes, I said, sounds crazy. And in the text, it says, the solicitation text, it's like solicitation text, it says. Like an Apocalypse, directed by John Hughes. Come on.
I know, you have to buy it.
That is, yeah. That's got to be a get.
On the Dynamite?
I actually have nothing from Dynamite.
Okay, well, I don't have a poem for Dynamite this month, but in Dynamite just can't let IDW do the mashups of different franchises. So on page 182, they have Warlord of Mars Attacks.
Yeah,
so they're combining Warlord of Mars and Mars Attacks. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, who's writing that? Let me
Jeff
come
Parker.
back. That's right. That is a Jeff Parker joint, isn't it? And Dean Kotz doing the art.
I love Jeff Parker.
So that's kind of interesting. And do I have anything else for Dynamite? Oh, and then there's, I don't know if Gabby or Madison might be interested, but Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys on page 186. And it's an original graphic novel. It's not a comic. It's an actual hardcover graphic novel. So the whole story should just be right there for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And who does that? Is that anybody we know? Scott Bryan Wilson writes it, and Bob Solanovic is the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the art that I see on these pages, so that might be kind of interesting.
I read so many Hardy Boys novels when I was a kid.
Yeah, that was, I did too. I wonder, is that still a thing? The Hardy Boys, Nancy?
I mean, I still see them in bookstores on occasion,
Good.
but I don't know. I have no idea what the popularity is these days.
I wonder if those translate well to this generation. Because, I mean, if you don't have a smartphone, if you have a typewriter instead of a computer, would a kid go, what's a payphone? I don't know if that would translate very well. Yeah. And I will be buying Red Sonja, Vampirella, Betty and Veronica #2 on page 193.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I don't trade weight on purpose very often. I was interested in the Lone Ranger book that was written by Mark Russell with the art by Bob Q. The trade paperback compilation of that book, subtitled The Deaf Smith Cattle War, is on sale and solicited in here, and I think I will pick that up. I was interested in it, didn't get it in singles, and I thought I would wait for the trade, and I think that I will pick that up. So that's on page 195 if anybody's interested.
I'd be very tempted if John Cassaday actually did the interior art as well. Nothing against Bob Q, but I just love Cassaday stuff.
Do have to admit the cover of the book is nice.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything for Boom?
No.
I have anything for Boom. That's the question.
I don't.
Yeah, I haven't had anything from them lately. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we can move on to. I do want to call out two compilations on pages 216 and 217. Previews is celebrating Pride Month in this issue. And two of the items that are solicited as evergreen titles on pages 216 and 217, I would recommend Goldie Vance #1, Volume 1, written by Hope Larson, illustrated by Brittany Williams. Goldie Vance was kind of a fun title. I only collected the first couple of issues, but I enjoyed them a lot. I just had to cut it due to budgetary concerns. But I would get into these trade paperbacks just to read them, to read the whole thing. And Abbott, the softcover trade paperback of Abbott by Saladin Ahmed with art by Sami Cavella. That was an interesting book. So I would check those out if you have the chance.
One of the other books here, George, Joyride. That's something that I've been kind of eyeing getting, and I just noticed that it's only $10, as is the aforementioned Goldie Vance book.
That's right. Yeah, nice when they do things like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm all for $10 trade paperbacks.
Ready to go deeper into the book?
My next thing is on with Aftershock. So if you have anything before that,
Aftershock. No, we can go right to Aftershock. Sure.
This is on page 246. Trustfall by Christopher Sabella and Chris Visions. So this is an interesting book or interesting potential story here. Ash Parsons was raised to believe she's special as someone with a quirk of genetics that lets her teleport things. She's the golden goose of the family, the foundation of a struggling criminal empire. So basically, she's able to teleport stuff, right? So they will rob banks and they'll get things, but she can't teleport herself, and so she has to rely on her family and the members of this criminal organization to come get her after she's whisked away all this stuff, and hence the name Trustfall. Mm-hmm. So it's an intriguing concept.
I did have something prior to that.
Okay.
On page 238, I had a couple of things circled. One was just because of the presence of a version of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile on the cover of Aberrant Season 2, Number 5 from the Danger Zone version of Action Lab. So not quite an homage, but nice to call out. And AC Comics, Men of Mystery number 112. I'm actually surprised a title like this kind of still exists right now. The only reason I call it out is because DC had the Freedom Fighters maxi series going on. Mm-hmm. And they have Golden Age reprints of Uncle Sam, Crime Buster, Minuteman, Yankin' Doodle. So I would think more, characters maybe from the 40s and the 50s. Mm-hmm. So that might be interesting for somebody if they were just interested in old comics history to pick up an issue like that. It's a compilation of books. It's a $30 book at 140 pages, but might be interesting for somebody if they wanted to read old books.
What page is that?
No, that is on page 238.
Okay. Oh,
then there's this book called Banjax. And the ad on the other page, the elevator pitch is Death Wish meets The Watchmen.
Oh, boy.
And yet another deconstruction of the superhero genre.
Twisted deconstruction, George.
Yes, twisted. So really quick, supposedly it's a wholly original and delightfully twisted tale. But here's the thing. A disgraced former superhero is diagnosed with terminal cancer brought on by years of using his powers. Defending what he has deemed an ungrateful and ultimately unworthy city, he has decided that with his just months to live and his legacy hanging in the balance, he launches a violent and misguided Death Wish-like campaign to purge the city of supervillains before he dies. Interesting. Maybe we've seen it before in another way. But I thought something like that might have passed somebody by, so I wanted to call it out.
Well, and I'm glad you did, because I totally passed by that, and now that you've called my attention to it, I kind of want to read this. But I will say, you noted on page 239 where they kind of focus on it. Two things. One, they give you the what Banjax means. Mm-hmm. It's an Irish slang verb to mean to ruin, incapacitate, break, beat to hell, or destroy. A mess or undesirable situation made as a result of incompetence. Mm-hmm. And speaking of incompetence, George, I'm only slightly joking. I kind of take offense on the behalf of the artist of this, because it says here Banjax, and this is all in big text, from Hollywood scribe and aberrant writer Rylan Grant. And then in parentheses, in smaller text, and featuring artist Fabio Alves. Mm-hmm. Come on.
I know. Well, supposedly the writer's name is DeSalle.
I guess, but yeah. I just poor choice. And I would think Action Labs would be better at promoting the artist as well. I'm calling Action Labs out.
On page 240, I will continue to get Spencer and Locke 2. Number 3 is solicited in this book by David Pepos and Jason Smith and Jorge Santiago Jr. Enjoyed the first one. Can't wait for the second one. Oh, can I call one other odd one out?
Mm-hmm.
On page 243, This Love So Brief One Shot by Frank Chow. Comics creator Frank Chow put together a small collection of humorous short stories from his love life. Starting off as comical reflections of elementary school crushes, house party hookups, and first relationships, these stories delve into themes of the responsibilities that come with age, inevitable life changes, nostalgia, and home. Having been an awkward person, well, still being an awkward person, this one looks like it could be fun. It looks like it's a regular comic at $3.99 at 32 pages, so just your regular comic. It's from, I guess it's also from Aftershock. It's also from Action Labs. So, I don't know, maybe your comic shop will have it. Or if you're interested in pre-ordering it, check it out.
Yeah, I think I might add
Page
that to my list, George.
Page 243.
My next thing is on 254.
Cool. What's that?
254 is from Ahoy. This is Steel Cage.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically that whole page of Ahoy books. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Except I won't need the trades because I already collected Captain Ginger and High Heaven, but anything from Ahoy right now I'm picking up.
Right. Oh yeah. See, now that's going to increase my spending because I've based on your descriptions of these books and other people that are reading these, I think I need to get High Heaven and Captain Ginger, although that's usually not something that I would normally gravitate towards. So, but there's a new book here. This is Steel Cage, and this is an interesting thing because what they're doing is you get to vote on three dazzling short pilot stories from Ahoy's finest, and you get to vote on which one of these series continues. And so you have writers Mark Waid, and it says and various. But down here, I guess below, Tom Pyre, Alan Robinson, Stuart Moore, Peter Gross. I think, is that it? Oh, and with Mark Waid, it's Lana Suvani. So there's 3 different stories here, $3.99, and then in the 21st century tradition, you get to vote on something that continues on.
Still loving those Ahoy books, I'll tell you, man. I can't wait to check out this new wave. All right. How deep into the book do you go now?
301 is my next one. And in fact, I don't have that much more left.
Okay, and I don't think I have that much more either. But 267, The Return of Jughead's Time Police, number 1 of 5. Sina Grace and Derek Charn bring back the fan favorite Jughead's Time Police. Did you ever read the original?
I have never heard of this.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. When did it come out? I don't know, but I've seen a softcover compilation of Jughead Time Police at my local Barnes & Noble, so I want to check that out. And for classic Archie fans out there on page 270, Archie Jumbo Comics Digest number 300. The reason I call this out is because there's a brand new story, probably the only new story in it, called His Days Are Numbered, where the number 300 seems to be following Archie everywhere. Is it a coincidence or is something unusual going on? So I thought that was kind of clever. Yeah. I think that's clever. What was the next page? 3 what?
301.
301. Go for it, because I'm on 301 too.
Well, and this is not normally something I would point out, but this is the DC Superheroes Who's Who board book. And I'm thinking, I need to
That's right up your alley.
I need to get this for my granddaughter.
There you go.
She's really big into, she's not yet 2. She's really big into pointing at pictures and saying, "Who's that?" who's that?
Oh.
And so if I could get her to point to Batman and say, who's that? And have her say Batman, I would just be filled with so much joy.
I have something on 343.
I have something on 322.
Let's go for it.
Let's do that first. This is, we talked about this before. This is Humanoids.
Oh, Humanoids has great stuff.
They are there. It was announced not too long ago that they're getting into the superhero business. And so we get Ignited, number 1 from Humanoids by Mark Waid, Kwanzaa Asayefo, Phil Briones, with covers by John Cassaday and Mike McCone. And there's on page 324, 325, there's some interview stuff with Wade and Cassaday. Looks like, yep, just them. But, a new superhero universe. And I'm always interested in that kind of a new thing. I always like to try out a new publisher, a publisher's new foray into the superhero land. So,
and especially those creators.
Yeah, those are some nice creators.
Yeah.
Okay, you said 340 what?
343.
Okay.
Do you have anything prior to that?
Nope.
Well, I have read Guardians of the Louvre by Jiro Taniguchi, and I think I've spoken about it here on like one of our earlier, like one of the first preview shows we did together.
That sounds familiar. And
there's a group of books based on the Louvre. I've read 2 of them, and this one stands out as a nice example of a foreign comic. And this is called out because not only are we celebrating Pride Month in this issue of previews, but we're celebrating Manga Month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right next to it is a hardcover called Rohan at the Louvre by Hirohiko Araki. And I've seen this one solicited before, and I've never picked it up, but I may, just because I am digging these Louvre comics. And Rohan, a young, now I don't know what a mangaka is. I'm not quite sure. I should have looked that up before the show. Meets a beautiful, mysterious young woman with a dramatic story. Seeing him draw, she tells him of a cursed 200-year-old painting using the blackest ink ever known from a 1,000-year-old tree the painter had brought down without approval from the emperor, who had executed him for doing so. The painting, meanwhile, had been saved from destruction by a curator of the Louvre. Rohan forgets this story as he becomes famous, but 10 years later, he takes the occasion of visiting Paris to try and locate the painting. Little does he know how violently powerful the curse of it is until he has the museum unearth it from deep within its archival bowels. I don't know. Lately, we've said it here on the show before, I am digging European books and Asian comics. And this looks like a good example of something that I might pick up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just so people know, I was looking this up as you were talking. Mangaka is a person who creates manga.
Oh, well, that makes sense. On the next page at Oni Press, just for any fans of Little Women, on page 344, we have Little Witches, Magic and Concord, a charming magical graphic novel based on Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. So,
a magical retelling of that book, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it looks like something that, with the art, it looks like something that even that my girls might like.
All right.
And then my last things, George, are in the Valiant section. So if you
okay, go for it. Well, let me see. You went to Valiant. Okay, I have one thing before Valiant here. What is this? Sorry for all the page turning, folks. I'm going to have to come up with a better way to mark these pages, I guess. I don't have anything. Wait, is Titan before Valiant?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that would happen alphabetically. So let's see. Sorry for all the page turning, folks. I thought there was one thing here that I had. Titan has a collection of old Ms. Tree comics. written by Max Allan Collins. I remember buying a few Ms. trees back in the day. Was always interested in the characters, so this might be a trade paperback to pick up. And also, listeners of your show may know that you and I, for the past 2 years, have done a Christmas gab bag. There is a resolicit of Santa, My Life and Times, illustrated by Bill Sienkiewicz. This is a book that I think I had said the wrong artist when I was mentioning a book that I like to bring out every other holiday or so. This is the book. I think I thought it was illustrated by P. Craig Russell. I don't know how the heck I obviously haven't read the book in a couple of years. I haven't read the book in a couple of years, but this is the book I have referred to in the past as being a good book to have for the holidays.
Oh,
Santa, My Life.
Yeah. I have to get this.
And seeing it in the book now, of course, I'm going to have to dig it out for the next holiday season. In fact, what page is that on for people? Oh, here it is. Page 374, if anybody's interested in checking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Green wrote it, and Bill Sienkiewicz did the artwork. And you can see a couple of sample pages there on page 374.
Mm-hmm. On sale September 11th.
Right. And time to think about the holidays.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you have going on with Valiant?
So just a couple interesting. Well, one is an interesting tidbit, and then another thing is piques my interest. But on page 379 is this new Side Lords series. But what I want to call attention to is the Side Lords numbers 1 through 12 pre-order edition bundle. And I thought, that's an interesting gimmick. So you pre-order all 12 issues and you get extra content, behind-the-scenes looks at the creation of the comic, character designs at no additional cost.
I think Valiant has done this before.
Oh, really? Okay.
I believe so.
Mm-hmm. This is just, I've never encountered this before, so I just thought that was kind of weird. I guess that's one way to ensure that your comic gets to 12 issues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, pretty much.
And then on page 382, I love handbooks.
Okay.
Anything that tells me about the backstory of the universe, of the characters, of things. And so what you get here is the Valiant Universe Handbook 2019 edition that's been updated and expanded. It says here over 64 pages for only $3.99.
Oh, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah. So if you're a fan like me, because Lazarus did this, they have their source books. They've done 3 or 4 of those, and it's just all this wonderful detail about that world. And so I imagine, and it also reminds me of perhaps DC's Who's Who and the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. This is not something that I would get because I'm not big into Valiant, but for people who are, this seems like this is a must get.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, are you interested enough to pick it up?
And George, that does it for me.
Okay, great. Well, I only have one more thing to bring up, and that is our monthly Great Titles in Manga section. And I got a little lazy, and right on the first page in the featured items section, I found something that caught my eye, and I didn't really dig too much deeper. But if you're interested in checking it out on page 440, you could. But the book is called My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom, Volume 1 graphic novel. Dun, dun, dun. And actually, here's the elevator pitch. A woman awakes in a virtual game world as its villain. And since the game will result in her destruction, she has to break the game itself to survive. And what do we always say, Eric? Hilarity ensues. Mm-hmm.
Well, see,
and
that twist actually makes it sound somewhat interesting. So
it's different.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, are we done?
I think we're done.
We're done. Oh my God. Something just doesn't seem right.
A lot of good stuff in this previews this month.
Very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
This is a tough hobby.
We'll have to confer with each other about our potential cost for for this month.
You know what I wanted to do this month, and I neglected to do it, but I did want to bring to the table some of the things from the February catalog that I got in April, or maybe from the January catalog that I got in March that you and I talked about. They were a little obscure because I have been getting some obscure things. Mm-hmm. So maybe next month, if you invite me back on, I will share some of the odder things that maybe I ordered that came from the back of the book.
Okay.
Because I have been getting some things now. Well, actually, it may not be worth it to share until I read them. But I have been getting at least 2 what I would call back of the book purchases a month for the past couple of months now. And I'd be interested if some of your listeners do the same. I mean, most of your listeners probably pick up some Marvel, some DC, some Image, Dark Horse, some of the stuff at the beginning of the bigger catalog. But I'd be interested to hear of some of the more obscure books that people are picking up. And you too, be interested to hear about some of the stuff. I know you just recorded an episode, but of what was it called? Tales to Astonish? Mm-hmm. And I know you had your DC Cavalcade prior to that. I haven't listened to your Tales to Astonish yet. Now, do you have any obscure books on that episode?
No. It's mostly just the main publisher stuff.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm still looking forward to listening to it.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. And in fact, just recently I forget which episode it was now, but I mentioned something about needing to read more, not more, just read some manga. And I asked my listeners for recommendations. And since you always bring up the manga stuff at the end of the previous episodes, it's a perfect time to make that call again and have people provide some recommendations for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, please.
All right, George. Well, I think we're done, and you need to get to bed before you turn into a pumpkin.
No, I'm just going to go straight to work.
Oh, jeez.
No, just kidding. I'm already late. No, just kidding.
All right. So, George, remind the fine folks where they can converse with you on the interwebs.
I wish I had a new address to give people, but it's the same one, at least for this month. I'm at George and Tony on Twitter, which is where I put most of my information. So please watch that for when the new show comes up, what the new name is, and when I figure out how to rename my Twitter handle and make everything just kind of flow naturally. I'm also on Facebook currently at George and Tony Entertainment. That will change also eventually, but keep an eye on Twitter and you'll see the changes there.
All right. Very good. Hey people, send me email at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can also visit longboxreview.com and leave comments there, and converse with me on Twitter at longboxreview. George, another previews to bed.
Thanks. And don't forget, Livestream for the Cure. Go to livestreamforthecure.com. I will be on with my new co-hosts, Rodney and Kristen, on Friday, May 17th in the 10:30 half hour.
Excellent.
Please listen and donate to the cause.
Exactly. And I'll have a link in the show notes as well for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
And I'll be tweeting about it and stuff for the next month.
Yeah. Good. We'll be watching. We'll be listening.
Thank you.
All right. Well, like I said, another previews to bed, and George, to bed with you.
Everybody have a great free comic book day.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.